Good afternoon. I'm Haley Ficasello, and this is Englebrook Independent News Federal Crime Report, highlighting major federal prosecutions for the U.S. District of Oregon during February of 2026. Federal prosecutors in Oregon announced a series of significant sentencing and criminal cases this month, ranging from child exploitation and sexual trafficking to drug trafficking, immigration violations, and assault on federal officers. Tonight, we break down 9 cases that result in major federal sentencing, guilty pleas, or indictments. A Warm Spring, Oregon man has been sentenced to 20 years in federal prison for sexually abusing 2 minors on the Warm Springs Indian Reservation. Harold Charlie, 39, received 240 months in federal prison sentence along with lifetime supervised release. According to court documents, the abuse occurred in January of 2024 when Charlie, who was already a registered sex offender, engaged in sexually abusive contact with 2 minors between the ages of 12 and 16 over several weeks. Federal prosecutors filed 2 counts of abusive sexual contact through a superseding information on September 23rd of 2025. Charlie pled guilty on October 7th of 2025, admitting responsibility for both accounts. Federal officials say the case underscores ongoing efforts to prosecute violent crimes committed within tribal jurisdiction. A Lake Oswego resident has been sentenced to 6 years in federal prison after authorities uncovered a cocaine trafficking operation that used cryptocurrency to launder profits. Michael Wayne Frost, 47, was sentenced to 72 months in prison and 5 years of supervised release. In addition, Frost must forfeit more than $500,000 in cash and cryptocurrency assets connected to the operation. Investigators conduct multiple controlled cocaine purchases from Frost before executing a federal search warrant on July 2nd of 2024. During the search, agents seized 1 kilogram of cocaine, approximately $20,000 in cash. Followed up warrants uncovered over $509,000 in additional funds tied to drug trafficking. Prosecutors say Frost attempted to launder the proceeds through the business bank account, later transferring the funds to Robinhood to invest in cryptocurrency. A federal grand jury indicted Frost on 7 counts in August of 2024, and he pled guilty in September of 2025 to cocaine distribution and money laundering charges. A Beaverton man and registered sex offender has been sentenced to more than 33 years in federal prison for coercion a minor producing child sexual abuse material. Michael Kumblick, 43, received 405 months sentence, along with lifetime supervised release and restitution to the victim. According to federal investigators, Kumblick contacted a 9-year-old victim through the online video game Call of Duty. He posed as a female minor in order to gain the child's trust. Kamblebek then coerced the victim into sending sexually explicit photos and videos, which the victim's parents discovered in December of 2024. The parents immediately contacted the police. U.S. Attorney Scott E. Bradford said protecting children remained a top priority. FBI Portland Acting Special Agent in Charge, Marie Panovich, added that the agency remains committed to identifying and removing child predators from the community. Camel pled guilty in November of 2025 to coercion and enticement of a minor. A Mexican national previously deported from the United States has been charged with illegally re-entering after deportation following his arrest in Portland International Airport. Manuel Cruz Ramirez, 38, appeared in federal court after being identified through fingerprints analysis by federal authorities. According to court documents, a TSA officer stopped Cruz Ramirez on February 3rd of 2026 after he presented a Mexican passport under an alias. Customs and Border Protection officials determined he was previously entered the United States June 25th of 2018, been placed in expedited removal proceedings, been deported to Mexico on June 28th of 2018. Cruz Ramirez is currently detained pending federal court proceedings. Authorities say he has also recently been released on bail in Marin County, Oregon, where he faces serious state charges including rape, sodomy, and purchased sex with a minor. A Portland man has pled guilty to assaulting a federal law enforcement officer at Immigration and Customs Enforcement Office in South Portland. Robert Jacob Hoops, 25, pled guilty to aggravated assault of a federal employee with a dangerous weapon resulting in bodily injury. Prosecutors say that on June 14th of 2025, Hoops threw a large rock at an ICE officer, striking the officer in the head and causing a significant laceration above the officer's eye. Later that day, Hoops and two others allegedly used an uprooted stop sign as a battering ram, damaging the front entrance of the ICE facility. A federal grand jury indicted Hoops in August of 2025. He now faces up to 20 years in federal prison, along with fines and supervised release. Sentencing is scheduled for May 12th of 2026. Hoops has also agreed to pay restitution exceeding $7,000 for property damage. A Salem man has been sentenced to more than 21 years in federal prison for paying child sex traffickers overseas to live stream the abuse of children. Stephen Daniel Griswold, 44, received a 262-month sentence and lifetime supervised release. Between 2018 and 2019, prosecutors say Griswold paid traffickers in the Philippines to conduct live stream sexual abuse of children as young as 3 years old. During the live stream, Griswold directed traffickers how to abuse the children. He typically paid between $20 to $40 per live stream session. After learning he was under investigation for uploading child pornography to Snapchat, Griswold fled to the Philippines in 2020. He was eventually deported back to the United States in March of 2024. Griswold pled guilty in November of 2025 to sexually exploitation of children. He was also ordered to pay $12,000 under the Amy, Vicky, and Andy Child Pornography Victim Assistance Act. A Portland man has been sentenced to more than 24 years in federal prison for sex trafficking 3 minor victims. Eric Lamont Harris, 51, was sentenced to 292 months in prison and 10 years of supervised release. Federal investigators say Harris trafficked 3 teenage victims between 2022 and 2023, including a 15-year-old ward of the state, 16-year-old reported missing by her parents, and a 17-year-old victim. Authorities say Harris arranged hotel rooms for commercial sex acts, transported the victims, posted online escort advertisement, and collected thousands of dollars in prostitution proceeds. 2 victims were eventually located by FBI and Keswick police in Washington state after they had been reported missing. Harris pled guilty in November of 2025 during the 4th day of the 10-day federal trial. A Gerhardt, Oregon man has pled guilty to secretly filming a minor in possession of child sexual abuse material. Joseph Tyler Beaumont, 35, admitted to sexually exploitation of children and possession of child pornography. Investigators discovered a thumb drive containing hidden camera recordings. The cameras were distinguished as a dummy smoke detector above the victim's bed, a camera hidden behind a teddy bear, and a recording from Beaumont's own cell phone. The footage captured the minor changing clothes, showering, and using the bathroom. Authorities also discovered child sexual abuse materials involving other victims on the device. Beaumont faces a mandatory minimum of 15 years in federal prison, with sentencing scheduled for August 19th of 2026. He also agreed to pay restitutions to the victims. Finally tonight, a Washington state man has been convicted by a federal jury after escaping custody while on supervised release. Brandon Charles Nelson, 40, failed to report to Northwest Regional Re-Entry Center in Portland, where he was required to check in after being transferred from the Victorville Federal Correctional Institution. Nelson had previously been convicted of felon in possession of firearm. After repeatedly violating release conditions, he was ordered to report to the re-entry facility by November 20th of 2025. Instead, Nelson absconded, prompting a U.S. Marshal Service fugitive investigation. He was arrested on December 5th of 2025 without incident. Nelson now faces up to 5 additional years in federal prison. His sentence is scheduled for June 8th of 2026. Those are some of the major federal prosecutions announced in February 2026 by the U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of Oregon. Cases involving child exploitation, trafficking, narcotic distribution, and violence against federal officers continue to be the top priority for federal investigators and prosecutors across the Pacific Northwest. For continued coverage of federal crime cases across the United States, stay with Englebrook Independent News. I'm Haley Ficasello.